Hi, welcome to Nothing But Fun. I'm Emily Trotter. So glad you could be here. Um, Last week was heavy on Nothing But Fun. We talked about judgment, and you reap what you sow. I hope you guys have come through that. But along the same lines, because we were talking about it's not really your place to judge people. You're just supposed to do good. You know, that's what it says in Galatians. Therefore, we have opportunity. Let us do good to all people, especially those who belong in the family of believers. So another quote, I just saw this quote recently, and I was like, oh, that's good. That's a good quote. And it is this: accept people as they are, but place them where they belong. I mentioned last week that I'm doing some counseling, and it's such a great thing. I highly recommend it. Everybody should have a therapist, a counselor, somebody. Um, top notch experience for me. I love it. Okay. But I've recently been doing some therapy, and accept people for who they are, but place them where they belong. That really stopped me in my tracks because I'm working on boundaries. Um, and I think that that's such a term that we hear all the time now is boundaries. You define what's okay for you and what's not okay for you, and da 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 da, and where makes you uncomfortable, and how you need to not be a doormat, and how maybe because we also talked about this with my friend Laura, who I mentioned two times in a row. The good girl, and Laura would say, don't let people have that kind of power over you, so that when you say no, it period, no is a sentence, that you can't give that people that much power over your life and over who you are and your happiness and your emotional well-being, and this, that, and the other. So when I saw this, accept people as they are, but place them where they belong, it really kind of resonated with me, because we all have difficult people in our life, right? We all have things, people that we have to deal with. And you can still, and I thought this was good, to accept them how they are, but put them where they belong. And it kind of gives a different, it's not like, you hear, I'm going to, so and so, boy, she put him in his place. I'm going to put you in your place. It's different than that. That's a totally different thing. And so I got to thinking about it, and I really thought, well, is this something that Jesus would do? And I thought, well, absolutely. Jesus absolutely accepted people as they were. He didn't care who they were, or where, what was going on. He accepted them for who they were. And he saw right to their heart. He knew who they were, probably more than they knew who they were, right? Because he sees to the heart of the matter. He sees the inside, of what's going on in your heart. So I was thinking about them. I was thinking about this, and there is a spiritual aspect to this. And I think this is absolutely what Jesus would do, right? So, what would Jesus do? Jesus would accept people, but he would also put them in their place. And we see this, there's several places that we see this in the Bible. Like, look at, what comes to mind, and it's not always correcting, but it is like, but he was, remember how we were talking about, like, in a gentle way, like back to Galatians, it said you should restore him gently. Jesus could do that. He personified that. And that's what comes to my mind here is Martha, like from Mary and Martha, when Jesus is with them and Martha is busy making sure everything's right, and her sister Mary is just sitting listening to Jesus talk, and just being with him, and Martha says, Jesus, I am doing all the work here. Now I'm paraphrasing. And Mary, my sister, is just sitting here. And Jesus says, Martha, Martha, you are worried about many things, but Mary has chosen the better. And I'm not going to take that away from her. So Jesus accepted Martha for being the person that she is. And he sees her and he says, you're worried about many things, but I'm not going to take this away. Look, Mary's chosen the better option here. You should also be sitting at my feet, listening to what I have to say. So there's that kind of thing. He saw people, even, Zacchaeus, the tax collector, who we know, tax collectors are not fun people. Well, they may be fun, I guess. They may be fun, but they're not well liked because of, it's an occupational hazard, I would think. And Zacchaeus, remember, he was a wee little man. A wee little man was he. He climbed up in the sycamore tree to see for the Lord he wanted to see. And Zacchaeus, and the Lord says, Zacchaeus, you come down, for I'm going to your house today. He saw Zacchaeus. He accepted him for who he was. And he saw him and went to his house to eat. Matthew, his disciple, the author of the gospel, Matthew, also a tax collector. And Jesus looks at him and sees him and says, hey, come with me. Come follow me, be with me. Jesus sees people, he accepts people, and he puts them where they belong. He also does it in a really strong way. Like in John chapter 2, starting in verse 13, he goes into the temple and he sees that there are money changers, that they're selling goods. And he makes a whip and he goes in there and cleans house, flips over the tables and says, get out of here. You're not supposed to be doing that here. Cleaned them out. He saw who they were and accepted it and then placed them where they belong. He's famous for calling out the Pharisees as they were trying to entrap him and do things and make him be something he wasn't be. He was famous trying to, I'm getting all tongue tied because I'm just, he was famous for when they were chasing after him, trying to trap him in all these little, well, what happens if this? He is famous for calling them out and saying, you hypocrites, you brood of vipers. When he calls them the brood of vipers, that's in Matthew 12, verse 34. And then in Matthew 23, for 13 through 27, he goes on and on. You hypocrites, you hypocrites, you hypocrites. He put them in their place. He knew who they were. He accepted who they were. He didn't try to, hey, all right, come on, guys. He looked at the Pharisees, saw who they were, accepted it, and then put them in their place. Gosh. The other thing that I find encouraging too is Jesus accepted who they are. He put them in their place, and then he left them there. Some of them, not all of them. He'd put them in their place and then welcome them back in. If things happened, if there were changes made, right? But when he sends out the 12, or not the 12, when he sends them out, where is this? In Luke, let me see. This is Matthew, I think. Let me get there. I should have done this before I turned this camera on, right? Hit record. And let me see if it's Matthew. It says all I wrote. Why didn't I write the book down? It says 10, 11 through 14. Oh yeah, here it is. It's Matthew chapter 10. It says, whatever town or village, he's sending out the 12 disciples. And he's sending them out and he's saying he's giving them instructions. And he says in verse 11, it says, whatever town or village you enter, search for some worthy person there and stay at his house until you leave. As you enter the home, give it your greeting. If the home is deserving, let your peace rest on it. If it is not, let your peace return to you. If anyone will not welcome you or listen to your words, shake the dust off your feet when you leave that home or town. So Jesus is saying, you're going into these places and you're going to do these things. And they're going to talk about him. He says, but if you meet somebody and they're not interested, shake the dust from your sandals and move on. Say, okay, accept people who they are, accept people for who they are, and then put them where they belong. Shake the dust from your sandals. And he also tells them in chapter 7, verse 6, it's where he says, you don't put your pearls before swine. When he's talking to them about it says, do not give dogs what is sacred. Do not throw your pearls to pigs. If you do, they may trample them under their feet and then turn and tear you to pieces. So he's saying, yeah, see people, accept them for who they are, place them where they belong. Is this encouraging to you? It's so encouraging to me that God allows us and sets this example with Jesus of accepting people who they are and seeing who they are, seeing what they're really about, and then putting them where they belong for you. That it's okay that we have this example of setting this boundary and saying, hey, this isn't working out. This is not good. I'm going to put you over here. Because even if you accept somebody for who they are, even if you've placed them where they belong, if you've accepted someone for who they are, you're not finding fault with them. You're saying, that's just who you are. Go in peace. Or I'm going to put you over here. You don't have to be their best friend. You don't have to spend any time with them at all. You can love them from a distance. You can make that choice. So I think a lot of things that we hear nowadays for mental health, it gets a little, I don't know if this is this a little self-serving, or what would Jesus do here? I think this is one of the things about accepting people who they are and placing them where they belong. I think this is something that we can hold up with Jesus and say, I think he would go along with this. And if you have doubts about it, just pray about it. Because I have relationships that I have been in or that I am in, and where I know that for my own well-being, I have accepted who they are, and I am trying to place them where they belong, or I place them where they belong. And then if any kind of guilt or doubt about it comes, then I have a conversation with the Lord. And I'm either given a peace about it, like, yep, you can do that, or you might need to try harder. Maybe you should reach out again. See, Jesus did it too. He set boundaries. When he went to his hometown in Nazareth, they didn't see him for who he was. He didn't hang around and keep doing it. He was like, all right, I'm out. I gave you all the opportunity. You did not want it. You did not take it. I'm seeing you for who you are. I'm accepting it. And I'm placing you where you belong. That doesn't mean forever, necessarily. It can, and that's okay. But it doesn't necessarily have to mean that. I'm encouraged by this. I hope you are too. Because God, Jesus, accepts you for who you are, and he loves you. chances are he'd want you to belong with him.